You're tuned into the Between the Hashes podcast. No fluff, just football. Today on the show, we are going to break down and go over our last mock draft before the NFL draft. Break down our top 4 players we think that are outside the first round right now that could slide into the first round, trades that might happen, and a lot more. And the way this works is every segment is timed. The mock draft we have is you get 8 minutes per pick, and we have it sliced up. We're doing a top 15, then we're doing 16 through 24, and then the rest. So why don't we get started here? And where is it? Right there. So, obviously, I don't know why that reset. Give me a second. We're going to restart that in a second. So, we're going to go here. So, obviously, as everybody knows, the Titans have the first pick. Uh-oh. No, that's not what we wanted. And I think we can both confidently say that Cam Ward's going to be the first pick, unless there's somebody else that at the last minute they decide to take.
The only other player, Bud, that I would think that would go number 1 would be Travis Hunter, but the Titans need a quarterback. Cam Ward's, I think, the best quarterback in the draft this year. Not a very high back class this year. I'd go more to Tennessee.
See, I agree with you to an extent. I think he's good, but the problem is he had one good season at Miami, and he had some good receivers. But obviously, Cam Ward's going number 1. Number 2, and we reset it. No, we're not going to reset it because we still have 6 minutes. So at number 2, there's some options out here for the Browns. The Browns need a quarterback, as we know, because Deshaun Watson's out, and their quarterbacks right now are Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. And neither of those guys are good options.
Though you might be able to get a quarterback in round 2.
So are you pivoting and going a different position here?
I would take Travis. I would take Travis Hunter in this if I was the Browns. And the only reason why
the problem is, what are you taking him as? Are you taking him as a cornerback, or are you taking him as a wide receiver?
Wide receiver. Then you get your quarterback in round your quarterback at pick 34.
He's not showing up on here as a wide receiver, so
he'd be okay. Then if that's the case, then
I've heard them say Abdul Carter. But I think that's I'm not going to say that's a reach, but I think that's a little too high for a guy like him.
Okay.
Another guy I could see them going with is, and I know this might be a reach, but Will Johnson out of Michigan. Because they need secondary help.
I was going to say they're in kind of a need of a lot of many things. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate the pick if they took Johnson or Carter for that matter. I mean, I don't think.
I mean, you got Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, Mikel Williams.
But according to some of the notes I have, Bud, it says that the Browns could trade back in round 1 and move down and take Jackson Dart or Jalen Monroe. Either the kid out of Ole Miss or the kid out of Alabama.
Well, you know what? The safe pick here is Abdul Carter.
Is that who they got? They got him, Carter? Okay.
I would take Abdul Carter here if I was the Browns, but we know the Browns are going to make the wrong pick. So we're going up to.
We're not going to have a draft day movie with Kevin Costner?
No. Abdul Carter's the pick. The Giants at 3, they need quarterback. You're not going to tell me that Jameis and Russell Wilson are going to be your starters. I think this might be where Shedeur Sanders goes.
100% agree with you, bud. 100%
Because
agree.
people are saying, oh, Shedeur, if he didn't have the last name Sanders, he wouldn't even touch the first round. I think that's a whole lot of foolishness.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but I think he has to be the pick, like you said. You can't. Russell Wilson is beyond his prime. Jameis can't stop throwing interceptions. You got to go with your quarterback here. With if you're the Giants.
Sure. So at 4, the Patriots, they need offensive line. They kind of addressed receiver and free agency, and I think they can get a receiver later on in the draft. So you've got 3 good options here. Will Campbell, Ahmad Medboom, and Kelvin Banks, who are all top 15 picks.
I would take Will Campbell at you.
Or do you think they go defense? Because they still need help on defense. And Travis Hunter's sitting there. I know some Patriots fans. I talked to them, and they're like, oh, we don't want Travis Hunter. You don't have a choice. If Travis Hunter's on the board at 4.
Yeah, they'll pick him.
And not as a wide receiver. I think they're going to pick him as a defensive back to pair with Christian Gonzalez. Tell me that ain't a good.
Well, would you take him, Bud, there, or do you take a chance of Will Johnson?
That's a good question. I'd go with the safer pick here in Travis Hunter because Will Johnson, there's reports out there that he might not be ready for rookie minicamp because he's still recovering from injuries.
Well, yeah, because that would you be taking a risk if you take him and he's not ready for rookie minicamp. Yeah, then if that's the case, then you got to take if Travis Hunter is still there at 4, you got to take him
at 5. The Jags D-line is one of their top needs. Is this too early for a guy like Mason Graham? In your opinion? Or Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon? One of those top 3 guys.
Mason Graham was a stud in Michigan. One of their better.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you as an Ohio State fan.
One of the better defensive. If you're taking defensive line here, you got to take Mason Graham. He's the best of the 3. Why not?
I mean, yes, but then again, I saw the combine tape for Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon, and they look just as good as Mason Graham.
Okay.
Would you? It says projected 23 for Derek Harmon and 25 for Walter Nolan. Would this be a reach if you were to go after one of them instead of Mason Graham?
Well, the only problem is if you don't take Mason and you take one of these 2 guys and they don't work out and you're like, crap, I could have had Mason Graham. So it feels like Mason Graham's the safe pick here for the Jags.
It's 5.
It's Jacksonville. So
again, Jacksonville's probably going to take somebody else. But again, ladies and gentlemen, we don't always get these picks right.
Well, and if you guys want to see if we get these picks right, Alec will be on my show tomorrow night, so we can go back and look at if we got these right or if we got them wrong tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yes. So Mason Graham's the pick here. Number 6, the Raiders. They need quarterback.
This is where I think you go out on a limb.
You know what? I'm going to say it's not going to be Milroe or Dart. Look at number 3. Tyler Shuck out of Louisville, who I'm going to talk about later. And I know what people are going to say. They're going to say this is way too early for Tyler Shuck. I don't think so. I'm willing to take the risk on him. If he doesn't work out, then whatever. 7, the Jets.
Yep.
And here's the interesting thing about the Jets. Justin Fields came out and said he's willing to mentor a rookie quarterback. Is this too early for a guy like Jalen Milroe?
I would say out of the nothing against Will Howard, but I would think of the three of them, I think you take Milroe because he's had, and Dart was just as good, but Milroe played at Alabama. I would, if I'm the Jets, I'd take Milroe. Or what else do they need? What they need out? They need offensive line too, or just
offensive tackle, defensive lineman, wide receiver are their top three needs.
okay.
You can. I don't know why they would need wide receiver. You got Garrett Wilson, and
Yeah.
I think you just took one late in the draft last year too. I understand the kid was a rookie, but we see guys in their second year take a big leap. Maybe the rookie they took last year, Malachi Corley, maybe he takes a year or two leap because they got rid of Devontae Adams. Alan Lazard reworked his contract. I think this is where you go offensive line because you can get a defensive lineman and a wide receiver later in the draft. Question is, out of the three offensive linemen, who are you taking? Menboom, Campbell, or Banks?
I got to go Campbell.
I do too. That's the easy pick.
The Patriots don't take them. They don't go offensive line and they go CB, then yes, I would. If I'm the Jets, you got to protect your quarterback, even if it is Justin Fields. You got
Carolina at 8, edge, corner, tight end. I think this is way too early for either of the tight ends they're saying are going to go in the first round.
Okay.
So edge, who do you got left at edge? Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Mike Green, and Mike Green is a guy I got to see when I went to the Virginia Tech Marshall game. He's a first round pick.
You know what? But out of those three, I've heard a lot of good stuff about Mike Green. I've heard a lot of good things about him at the combine and his pro day and all that. Why not? If I'm Carolina, you're looking up at the Bucks that are probably going to win. I would take him in that spot.
The Saints at 9, and this is where people saying Shadur Sanders was going to go if he made it outside the top 5, but he's not there. Are you taking a quarterback here? Or are you waiting till like the second or third round? Because you also need edge and you need wide receiver.
Well, they need a quarterback because they don't have one.
Apparently, they still believe in Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler is a flash in the pants type of kid where he'll have a good game. He had a couple of good games against the Bucks, or good halves. Should I say not really good games, good halves against the Buccaneers last year. I just if you need a quarterback, I don't think you can wait, because if you wait till round 2, all the quarterbacks could be gone. Could be, may not be, but could at that point.
You know, and there's 3 options here. And Will Howard's not one of them. It's either Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, or Kyle McCord.
A&M?
No, McCord's from Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse, okay.
Would that be a reach to take him at 9 and pass on a guy like Milroe or Dart?
I would take Milroe in his position if I was the Saints.
So Jalen Milroe at 9. And then I guess in the second round, you could come back around and get either your edge or wide receiver, unless they trade back up in the first round.
And that could be, they could do that as well.
The Bears at 10, tackle, edge, safety. Let's see the safeties that are available. Starks, Nick, and Menowari, and Xavier Watts. This is way too early for a guy like Xavier Watts. Malachi Starks, you could make the case that the Bears, if they really want to focus on defense in the first couple rounds, take a guy like Malachi Starks, but then you still need offensive line, and there's still 2 really good offensive linemen on the board, and Ahmad Menboom and Kelvin Banks. And people are saying Josh Simmons is going to go in the first round. He was good at Ohio State, but I don't know if he's worthy of being a top 10 pick. So that leaves Menboom and Banks
I take Menboom.
from Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
4 minutes. Let me gotta reset. Okay, so restart. So the 49ers at 11. Offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver.
Do you see the first wide receiver bud going here since they've lost Debo Samuel and company?
Yes, but it's not Teteroa McMillan. Even though he is my number one wide receiver in my rankings, I think they're going to take the kid from Ohio State. I know it says he's projected at 33,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's a reach to take him at 11.
No,
So,
I agree. Yep, I agree.
And Mecca Ibuka to the 49ers. The Cowboys. Oh, boy.
Jerry.
Jerry, I hope you're watching this. Do they take wide receiver? Because that's their biggest need. Tight end, wide receiver, edge.
Do you take McMillan in that thing, or do you
so you got McMillan's there, but then edge, you've got Jalen Walker, Mikel Williams, Shamar Stewart.
How about Jalen Walker?
End, but then tight end, you got Warren and Loveland. I'm sorry. I know I'm an Ohio State fan, but in my humble opinion, Colston Loveland is not a first-round pick. He had one good season at Michigan, and that was because he had J.J. McCarthy. Now, Tyler Warren, you could debate here, or there's the option, and people have been throwing it around, Ashton Genty to the Cowboys.
That I was going to talk about him later on, but that's a possibility too. They don't have a running back, but the thing about the running back position is it's not as important as it has been.
Or do you go offensive tackle because they lost Zach Martin, who retired?
They could do that too. Go Kevin Banks, Texas kid.
You got Calvin Banks, Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly Jr., who's Connerly has started to get first-round hype. But would this be too early for a guy like him to go?
Well, he's ranked 35th. I mean, if he did well at his pro day or senior day or pro day, did well in the Senior Bowl if he played. Why? You need offensive line help, and maybe they like him. But I think if I'm going to go OT, I'd go Kevin Banks. Banks.
Yeah, I think that's what the Cowboys end up doing.
Yeah, he's the hometown kid from Austin, so why not?
The Dolphins at 13. Corner, interior offensive line, defensive line. So who do we got on defense? Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant. You could throw wide receiver in there too. It's one of their needs, and they're talking about maybe trading Tyreek Hill.
Ooh. That, and you have a quarterback, and now I don't mean to come out and be mean or anything, but Tua's one concussion away from being out of the game. And I'm not being, that's not a joke. I'm just saying he's one concussion away. I don't think you draft a quarterback. You don't need one.
Do you take interior O-line here? There's 3 guys. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, Tyler Booker from Alabama, and Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. But for Donovan Jackson, here's the thing. I think this might be, I'm not going to say it reached, but it might be a little bit too early for him.
Okay.
Gray Zabel, I haven't got the chance to watch a lot of his tape, but I've heard from other people that have. He's not afraid to let you know how he feels in terms of blocking.
If he's available, you need interior lineman. Why not? He's the best available at that point. Why not?
So the Colts at 14. And this is where I think it gets tricky for them because their biggest need is tight end. And who is steering there that's on the board that has not been taken yet? I'm not looking at Loveland. I'm not looking at the kid from LSU.
You got to take, if you're tight end, you got to take Taylor Warren at that point for Indianapolis. Absolutely.
And to round out the top 15, the Falcons at number 15. They need edge, linebacker, wide receiver. Now, I think, tell me if this doesn't sound like a lethal duo. Teteroa McMillan and Drake London with Michael Penix at quarterback.
I would be pretty sorry about the NFC South if it does go down that way, but yes.
I would too. Yeah, and he's fallen 4 picks because he was supposed to go at 11.
No, because obviously I think Kirk Cousins is going to be gone. So, yeah.
So, Teteroa to the Falcons. And we will pick up with number 16 in a couple minutes. But now we get to our 4 players that we think that are outside the first round right now that could slide into the first round. And I will start. I've got QB, and we just talked about him going in the first round. Tyler Shough out of Louisville, and I did watch tape on him. I watched some of his highlights. Tyler Shough has a quick release. If you turn around for a second, you'll miss it. It's like a fastball. Quick. And the one thing I took away from his tape is he's not afraid to take a hit when he throws the football. And he has one of the best deep balls of all the quarterbacks in the draft. If I had to rank the top 3 quarterbacks with a really good deep ball in this draft, it would go Tyler Shough, Shadur Sanders, and Cam Miller from North Dakota State. Another thing I noticed from his tape was he loves to step up in the pocket. If something's not there, he's not afraid to move up in the pocket and try to find something. And he has a cannon. That football, when it comes out of his hand, it comes out with authority. Who is your number 4 player that you think could go in the first round? That's not in the first round right now.
I'm going to go with a guard out of Ohio State in Donovan Jackson. Again, offensive line, guys, is a necessity. If I don't care who your quarterback is, you got to have someone to block for him, and he is one of those guys who could be kind of, not a round 1 pick. You never know; he may have done well at his pro day, but I'm going to go with Donovan Jackson at that spot.
Okay. My number 3 is an offensive lineman out of Oregon who we were talking about a minute ago going in the top 15, Josh Connerly Jr. And the film I watched on him, very good blocker. First 2 things I found out is he's a good blocker and he is really good technique. He doesn't hold. He knows how to move, I'm not going to say manipulate, but move his hands to when he's blocking. So that's 1. 2, he's really good at blocking he's a really good run blocker. And 3, he's agile, very agile for an offensive tackle. And the last thing is he's excellent when it comes to run blocking and pass blocking. So whoever gets him is getting a really good offensive lineman. Who is your number 3?
Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Mississippi. He's a physical cornerback, and we all know with wide receivers, some wide receivers, if you get physical with them, you can shut them down. He's one of those who can be
Cough,
physical.
cough, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. He could be one of those guys that could go in the first round if a team is looking for a physical style cornerback. But yes, I could see him going. They're kind of the notes that I got. They're kind of saying that it's a lot like gambling with Michael Penix, what the Falcons did last year, taking him high in the first round. It's a gamble, but gamble paid off pretty well for Atlanta. So why not?
My number 2 is a defensive back that played in the conference that Bradley and I like a lot, the AAC. Defensive back from ECU, Siobhan Revell Jr. And the tape I watched on him is gets involved first. He gets involved in a run game. He's not afraid to stick his nose between the tackles and tackle a running back. That's the first big step, big key I took away from his film was that he's also physical. Good first step movement. He's fast for a cornerback. He had a injury shortened season last year for ECU. And the other thing, good technique. He loves to blitz. So whoever takes him, he might be out for the first couple games of the season, but when he comes back, you're gonna notice him on the field. He's a very good blitzer, and he loves to play on special teams. The last part of the film I watched on him, they had him on the special teams crew, and he blocked the field goal. Tell me that's not what a coach loves to see.
Well, and special teams is one of those sides of the ball that is not. Some coaches care, some coaches don't, but that's an important side of the ball. So absolutely, you get a good special teams guy that can block kicks. Why not? Block field goals, block punts. That's a good thing.
Go ahead with your number 2.
Running back Trevon Henderson out of Ohio State. Austin Gentry's already off board. So he's got to be the next guy up. If the Cowboys don't take Gentry, I think he would be one of those guys that that Jerry would go after because Jerry likes to make those bold picks. Doesn't have a GM because everything goes through him. So wouldn't be surprising if Henderson is not one of those guys as far as running backs go in the first round. If not to Dallas, to someone else who needs one in the first round.
My number 1 is Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State. And no, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I know I'm an Ohio State fan, but this is no homer at all. But the film I watched, speed, quick. He's very good in the passing game. And he's a very good pass blocker too. And he's not afraid, if you get in his way, he's not afraid to bulldoze you. Put it simple. That's the easiest way to put it. He will let you know that you made a bad business decision trying to tackle him.
Yep.
And your number 1 is?
It's Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. I mean, he's one of those guys. We talked about Milroe and Ward and Sanders. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to sneak up. And we talked about him going to the Raiders. And why not, Tom? Tom, you were drafted in round 6. They waited for you. Why not take a gamble with the kid out of Louisville? And who knows? Being in Las Vegas. Hey, they gamble a lot in Las Vegas, right? So this is a gamble.
Yes. So now we get to. Oh, I didn't even put notes. So now we get to the next batch of draft picks. And it's right there. 16 through 25. And the Cardinals at 16, they need edge, defensive line, and offensive tackle. Could defensive lineman, you got Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, and Kenneth Grant. Edge, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Jamar Stewart. Tackle, you got Simmons, Connerly, and Ariante Esri. Minnesota fans, you can let me know if I butchered that. I probably did. That is not an easy first name to say. Esri is the easy part to say. And then we just looked at. So where do you think they go here? Their top three needs: 2 defensive needs and an offensive tackle. Is this where you go offensive tackle if you're the Cardinals, or do you go edge or defensive line here and then go back around in the second round and take an offensive lineman?
I would take Harmon, Buddy, or Walker. One of the two. Those would be that's where I would go with if I'm Arizona.
I'm right there with you. I'd go Derek Harmon. The Bengals. Edge, interior offensive lineman, linebacker, offensive tackle, wide receiver. I think wide receiver shouldn't be at the top of their board. And in QB, that's just
no.
That's ridiculous. They have Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Gonna say Joe's pretty good.
I mean, could you see them taking another wide receiver here? Because I don't think Jermaine Burton's going to work out.
Because they re-signed
both Higgins
and Chase. Both got re-signed.
Yeah. Could you see them taking maybe Matthew Golden or Luther Burton here? I think this is too early for a guy like Jaden Higgins, even though I like him a lot.
I don't think you go wide receiver, bud. Who are the edge guys? Walker,
Williams, and Stewart.
I would go with Jalen Walker. If you need an edge rusher, and their defense has been kind of subpar the last few years, why not?
Yeah, I'd go Jalen Walker too. 18, the Seahawks. Interior offensive lineman, offensive tackle, cornerback. You know what? You got Will Johnson, Jahade Barron, and Maxwell Hairston. But you go down the board, and both the guys we just talked about are there. Do they take a shot at either Trey Amos or Siobhan Ravel Jr.? Or do they go for somebody that's in the top 3, like Hairston, Johnson, or?
Well, with Amos again, he's more of an aggressive CB.
The one that's getting the most first round buzz is Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky.
I
understand he played in the SEC just like Amos, but I watched his tape and
you're not.
I don't know. He didn't wow me. He didn't jump off the page.
Gotcha.
But to each is their own. I know you probably didn't watch tape, but what did you read from the notes on him?
On Hairston?
Yeah.
Again, he's playing in the SEC, and the SEC, again, guys, and I don't care what anyone says, is not known for defense. We're an offensive conference. We're an offensive conference. The Big Ten is the defensive conference. But, I mean, I would a shot in the dark, you take Trey. Shot in the dark, you take him and you build around him. Maybe you bring back the League of Boom, and he's one of the people that you bring.
Then they need interior offensive line and an offensive tackle. Because Seahawks fans, and I've heard it from them since they drafted Abraham Lucas, they do not like Abraham Lucas. They want him gone. and you got Ezri, Wyatt Millen, Ozzy Tripola, and in interior you got Jonah, Tate Rutledge, and Marcus Membo. But I don't think Marcus Membo is a first round pick.
Okay. Go over the kid from Arizona. When you
Jonah. Oh, that's a tough last name. You know what? We're just gonna go with Jonah. I think Jonah's the pick here. Even though he's projected to go at 56. There's always an offensive lineman that's projected to go later in the draft that ends up going in like the first 2 rounds. Tampa Bay at 19, linebacker, safety, wide receiver.
I've heard many rumors that this is going to be one of those trade out picks, and they move down. But
if they stay,
you have
wide receivers on the board: Luther Burns, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris. Trey Harris is not anywhere close to being a first round pick.
But you have
See, the thing with, I'm scared that Godwin, if he gets hurt again, his career's probably over.
But you got McMillan, who's
yes,
last year. So,
but then who becomes your slot? Because you don't really have anybody behind McMillan.
Well, you have Trey Palmer. I don't know if he can play the slot. I don't know.
He can, but he's not very good at it.
Because I would say linebacker because you have an aging Levante David who's probably going to be in his last year playing.
Oh, look at the linebackers though: Demetrius Knight, Carson Swearinger, and Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss.
Who are the
safeties? Nick Emmanuel, Xavier Watts, and Andrew Makuba. Makuba's good, but this is way too early for him because it says 74.
Do you think that
I don't think you would take a guy like, don't get me wrong, Makuba's good, but I don't think he's a first round pick. Second, third, maybe.
Do you think that Jason Light takes a chance with Xavier Watts, the kid from Notre Dame, to help?
You know what? His tape did jump out to me, but then again, I think this might be too late for him.
Okay.
Do you go off the board here? Cornerback's not one of the top needs, but you got an aging Jamel Dean. Zion McCollum did look good, but you got nobody behind them. You got Jahadi Barron, Maxwell Harrison, Trey Amos, and this is where they said Maxwell Harrison might go, is the Buccaneers.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree with.
But here's the thing. How far does Jahadi Barron fall? Because he was supposed to go 15.
Well,
would you go him over Maxwell Harrison?
Again, all three of these guys played in the SEC. So all three
or
of these guys.
Edge is on there too, and you got Shamar Stewart, James Pierce, Donovan Ezerike, which people are talking about. He could be a first-round pick too.
See, and Jason Light picks these guys that no one thinks, outside of Devin White, no one thinks, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes to Boston College. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
So Ezerike takes the edge because, they did sign Hassan Reddick to a 1-year deal. You lost Joe Tryon-Shoyinka.
Mm-hmm.
Kalijah Canty is talking about how he wants to lead the league in sacks this year. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Donovan Ezerike.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 20, the Broncos. Running back, tight end, linebacker. They just took a running back last year. The kid, Audric Estime out of Notre Dame.
See, they have Omari and Hampton as 22. The kid out of North Carolina projected it. Well, I mean, I guess he would be right in this way at 2022.
But then you got linebackers. You got you got Jahadi Barron, who was supposed. This would be the perfect pick. They need a linebacker. Jahadi Barron out of Alabama.
Why not? I mean, if they need a linebacker, why not?
And then you got Colston Loveland, who we talked about, who I don't see him as a first round pick. What is your stance on him? Do you see him going in the first round?
Well, tight ends are interesting. Tight ends are interesting because that's a machine that could go one way or the other. If you get a guy, say like Gronkowski, or some of the tight ends, stuff like that. So it just all depends. I mean, do the Broncos need a tight end? Is that what they're looking for?
Second biggest need is tight end. First is running back. Third is linebacker. I think the safe pick here is Jahad Campbell out of Alabama.
Yep, I'll go with that, with linebacker. Yep.
21, Pittsburgh, quarterback, running back, wide receiver.
This is where I think Jackson Dart goes. That's where I think he's been kind of rumored to go to Pittsburgh.
I could see that. Or, because, I mean, Ewers is still there, and Will Howard's still going to be there in the second round. Would you potentially think about, because you lost Najee Harris, and I don't think Jaylen Warren's ready to be a number one. So would you go Ashton Genty or Omari and Hampton?
Or would you take Aaron Rodgers? Because that's out there too. So if you're gonna go running back, you got to go Gentry. He would definitely be,
if he's still there on the board, which I'm surprised he's fallen this far.
Yeah, but I would, because he's
Genty to the Steelers,
because he would take over for Najee Harris.
22, Chargers, tight end, wide out, cornerback. And what are the wide receivers left? Matthew Golden, Luther Burton, Jaden Higgins. Or cornerback. What do we got left at corner? Could this be a spot for Jahadi Barron or Will Johnson? Well, you know what? Will Johnson would make a lot of sense. And I tell you why. Who is the coach?
I was going to say Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, that would make a heck of a lot of sense to get the.
I think this is a slam dunk. Will Johnson, and I know he's fallen this far, and there's a good chance on Thursday he falls outside the top 10.
Yeah.
Because of all his injuries and red flags from apparently the meetings he had with some teams. So Will Johnson to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. Green Bay, corner, edge, interior offensive line. They could be another team that takes. Could they go Jahadi Barron? Or could they go one of these two edge rushers? I do like James Pierce a lot, but he scares me because I watched his tape against Ohio State, and he was getting manhandled by some of the offensive linemen on Ohio State.
I would go with Mikael Williams in this position, but he's the best edge rusher left, and if you need edge, why not? Because he would be a good guy to build your defense around.
Vikings at 24. Safety, defensive lineman, running back.
Minnesota. Definitely not quarterback.
Yeah, because JJ McCarthy. I mean, it does say one of their needs is interior offensive lineman and offensive tackle. Who do we got left? Simmons. I mean, this is right around the range. They're saying that he could go.
Yeah.
Or do you go? You know what? But the problem is he's recovering from an injury. So that might scare teams away.
Okay.
So then would you think about a guy like Ezery or Connerly here?
If Simmons is coming back but from injury, I would take Connerly in that case, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. He would move a little bit since he's projected to be 35th overall. He'd move up just 11 spots, which is not a lot, So
Yeah. And then at 25, the Texans. Offensive tackle, wide receiver, edge. They lost Stephon Diggs. Is this where Luther Burden goes? I'm not going to say slip, but there's people that think he could go in the first round. Or do you keep a guy like Matthew Golden in the state of Texas?
I was just about to say, if he's there, another one of the.
Or let's look at the edge. Samar Stewart's still on the board. James Pierce still on the board. Scorton's still on the board. 3 SEC guys, 2 of them teammates.
And then you have Stewart, also a homer too, because being there in College Station. Or
offensive lineman Simmons, Ezery, and Millam. I mean, would this be a reach for a guy like Ezery? Because the Texans need offensive line.
Well, if Simmons is not there, but yeah, I would, yeah.
Then the question pops up again with Simmons. Is he going to be ready for the season? Because he's coming back from injury.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part. Is he available for coming off injury is going to be the interesting thing with him. So I would take Ezery here.
Ezery, Minnesota,
the Golden Gopher.
So, and then now we will get to the final part of the mock draft in a second. Who are some guys? I have 3 off the top of my head that I think could get traded. Do you have any guys that you think could get moved during the draft?
I do not.
I was thinking maybe Jalen Ramsey.
That's been rumored. I've heard that name pop up. Mm-hmm.
Maybe a guy like George Pickens, who the Steelers are claiming that they'll listen to offers, but they're not going to move him. I stand to think otherwise because they just traded for DK Metcalf and gave him a bag. So Jalen Ramsey and George Pickens. The other one I was thinking of, and this is a little outside the box, and I read it the other day. The Seahawks are thinking about maybe either trading Zach Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker.
I've heard Kenneth Walker's name pop up too. It's another one I've been trying to read all and trades.
Oh, and then stuff. The other one there's one more, Rachaad White from the Bucs. I don't see that.
No, I don't either. And this is one of the reasons why I don't see them trading Rachaad White. Where, yes, Bucky has taken over that spot, hands down. He's the RB1. But the good thing about
Rachaad White
is he's a good pass blocker. That's where you keep him around. I don't think. And who's their third running back?
It was Chase had. No, Keyshawn Vaughn got cut.
Oh yeah, he's a kid.
It was Chase Edmonds.
Who's the other kid that they brought in? That was
Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker.
So if you send Rachaad White away, does that mean Sean Tucker is RB2? I don't know.
You know what? I've heard the front office really likes Sean Tucker. But and people are, and I've seen on social media, people are like, oh, you can get a third round pick for Rachaad White. Dare I say, I think you could get a late first round pick for Rachaad White.
Yeah.
Because it was just maybe 2 years ago that he ran for 1,000 yards, almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he was one of those guys who had a chance to get to 1,000 and decided to not. I don't know what happened. He decided not to run past a certain line or something. I'm trying to remember that whole story with him. He had an opportunity to get to 1,000 and decided not to go do it or what. I don't remember it. But yeah.
Yeah, so those are the people we think that might get traded. And again, if it does happen, go over to the Walker Report because we will be streaming live over there at 8 o'clock tomorrow night watching the draft. And here is the wrap-up of our mock draft. So at 26, the Rams, they need corner, wide receiver, tight end. And there's some good wide receiver. There's some wide receivers left that I honestly think are good. Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. But again, Jaden Higgins is not projected to go till around the 47th pick. So would this be too early for a guy like him? Because the Rams did lose Cooper Kupp. Puka Nakuma's talking about he only wants to play till he's 30 and then he wants to retire.
I would go with Golden at that point. If he's there to help Matthew Stafford, why not?
The Ravens at 27. Interior offensive line, corner, edge, and wide receiver. Those are the top 4 needs. I mean, Zay Flowers, people are saying, oh, Zay Flowers is not a good number 1. He's better than what the Ravens used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you go? What wide receiver would you go with, though? Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. Again, I don't think Trey Harris is a first-round pick, but there's people out there that say, oh, he could go at the end of the first round.
And the Ravens, their offense is around the running game first.
And the interior O-lineman, you got Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker, Tate Rutledge.
Well, I mean,
and I've been picked on. I used to do mock drafts every Thursday. And there was a couple Thursdays in a row where I put Tyler Booker in the first round. And people are like, oh, at best, Tyler Booker's a third-string offensive tackle. Well, look at this now. He's got a first-round grade.
I would take him. I'd take him if I was there.
For those people that said he's not a first-round pick, where are those haters at now?
Yeah, he's got a first-round grade. He's 31. Yep.
28, the Lions. Edge, D-line, offensive tackle. I'm going to say defensive line here because you need somebody to pair with Aiden Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said Myles Garrett, but he's not getting traded anymore.
I would take Walter Nolan, the kid at Ole Miss.
I'm looking at Walter Nolan, but there's 2 other guys above him that both played in the Big Ten. Kenneth Grant, Tyreek Williams. Would you skip over Walter Nolan and go for one of those 2 guys? Since, again, like we talked about, the SEC, offensive-focused league, the Big Ten, defense.
Since
Tyreek had a really good season for Ohio State. And Kenneth Grant had just as good of a season for Michigan.
Well, and then again, he's a Michigan boy. Keep him in Michigan. Adrian, like you were talking about, Hutchinson, why not? Post him with another Michigan kid with Grant.
So Kenneth Grant to 29, the Commanders. Edge, running back, safety. What do we got on the board here? Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, and Caleb Johnson at running back. And Cam Scotabo, but would this be a reach if they were to go Scotabo from Arizona State?
That would be a reach, being that he's got a, second or third round grade?
84. So that's like third, fourth
round guy.
So you could rule him out. Caleb Johnson, probably a little too early for him. Judkins, maybe a little too early. So that leaves Hampton, Henderson, and then if you don't go running back and you go edge, you got Shamar Stewart, you got James Pierce, and Nick Scorton. But then if you go safety, Malachi Starks is still there, and he's kind of slipping.
Yeah, I mean, do you take Starks if he's there, as if one of your needs is safety?
Well, and then their other need is interior offensive line, and you got Donovan Jackson. And I don't think this is too early to go Donovan Jackson.
No, because again, that's just 9. That's 9 from where he's projected to be. So, yeah.
I think Donovan Jackson's the pick here. And Commanders fans, you can let us know if we made the wrong pick. Number 30, the Bills. Corner, receiver, safety. You know what? And this is a scary proposition to think of. Luther Burden to the Bills.
I wouldn't mind that.
Does that sound scary to you? Because they got Khalil Shakir. They've got Keon Coleman, who's probably going to be a better slot receiver than he is outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Luther Burden. If you take Luther Burden, and then your tight end is Dalton Kincaid.
Right.
But then corner, who's available at corner? Jahadi Barron, Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, or Siobhan Ravel.
Do you think that maybe they take a gamble with Amos, or do you think that they take
Ravel from East Carolina?
That's the possibility too at CB. I mean, again, if you're a wide receiver for the Bills, you're going to get the ball
or safety. Malachi Starks is falling.
Do you take him at that? Do you take him at that position again? Safety is one of their top 3 needs.
Yeah, I would take him. You don't want him falling to somebody else. Who's left? Oh, you can't let him fall to the Chiefs or Eagles.
Right. As we said, the Super Bowl team.
Chiefs at 31. Offensive tackle, interior. They don't need running back. They have Isaiah Pacheco. I don't get that.
Do you think, Bud, with running back, do you think if the Trevon Henderson, you don't think they take a shot at him?
That thing that has me laughing is the fact that they have quarterback on there. You have Patrick Mahomes. They do need offensive tackle. You got, knowing Andy Reid, you think he takes a chance on Josh Simmons?
He took a chance on Patrick Mahomes.
I wouldn't put it past him to take a chance on Josh Simmons. So, even though Josh Simmons is coming off injury, I'm going to say they do. And then you got the Eagles and Howie Roseman. Edge, safety, wide receiver. They don't.
Wide receiver?
They don't need wide receiver. They have 2 of the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
Unless you're thinking of maybe a guy in a slot. Because you want to play Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside.
I was going to say they have one that reads books on the sidelines, so A.J. Brown. And you got to give the guy a little bit of credit. He reads motivational books on the sidelines. Come on, guys. I mean,
but then there's the rumor out there that they might trade Devontae Smith.
Really? Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
I could see that's the reason why they maybe think wide receiver, but I mean, would you go Luther Burden? Would you go Jaden Higgins? Or would you go edge? Because you know they like their Georgia boys.
They do.
Or, I mean, you could go off the board. What do we got at safety? No Georgia boys. Interior. Offensive line is not one of their top needs, but could you see them going for a guy like Tate Rutledge, or is that too early?
Well, you know what? With them being the defending Super Bowl champions, it wouldn't be a far fetch, but honestly,
So you could see them going Tate Rutledge.
yeah, why not?
I could too, but then again, it's Howie Roseman. Like you said, you wouldn't put it past him. He's one of the best GMs in the NFL. I think they go corner here.
Okay.
And I don't think they take one of the top guys. I'm going down the board. This isn't too far-fetched to think about taking a guy like Siobhan Revel because you lost Darius Slay. Don't get me wrong. The kid they took last year is pretty good. That DB.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they take Siobhan Revel thinking that, we could recreate the Legion, our own Legion of Doom.
Right.
Legion of Boom. So Siobhan Revel is the last pick in the first round. Oh, okay. So overall, I thought we did a good job with the mock draft.
I agree.
And now we're going to do rapid fire 4-minute segments talking about what else to expect at the draft. So here's a couple things I wouldn't be surprised to see. Devontae Smith getting traded. What is the percent chance you think it happens?
Let's see. Out of 10, if 10 being is the trade, 1 being not traded, I'm gonna say a 5 or a 6. I'm gonna say it's right in the middle that he gets traded. Because I mean it's being floated there, then there's got to be some truth behind it. Some
What about George Pickens? Could you see George Pickens getting traded? Where would you put that on the trade meter out of 10?
I'd say 4 or 5. I don't see that occurring.
Now, what about Sam Howell? The Seahawks are floating the idea of trading him since they signed Sam Darnold.
Well, Sam Darnold, I think, is one of those
flash in the pan.
Well, but I think he's also a systems quarterback. I think he fit well in Minnesota, and now he's in a new system. If it's not similar to what they ran in Minnesota, it's going to be one of those, it's not going to be.
And the thing with his contract is, and I read about it the other day, it's basically, it says 3 years, but it's actually a 1-year deal because the Seahawks, they can cut him after this year and not incur any dead money.
Okay.
Any dead cap if they cut him. So say he has a bad year. And then they said, we want to move on. We want to take one of the quarterbacks in 2026. Like an Arch Manning or a Julian Sayin. We could cut Sam Darnold and not have to take that dead money. Now, where could you see, give me 3 destinations for Kenneth Walker if he gets traded?
Kenneth Walker's a linebacker.
No, running back.
Oh, running back. I'm sorry. He's a kid from Michigan State. Where could I see him going if he gets traded?
Can I throw one out there? Steelers?
Yes, I would say that.
Do it 3-1. So where would you put the Steelers? Would you put them at 3 or would you put them at 1?
I put them at 1 because they need that.
Patriots?
I put them 2.
Even though they have Ramondre Stevenson?
Yeah, but then again, Stevenson's had some injury issues. So you got to have somebody there. So, yeah.
So Steelers, Patriots, who's number 3? Could you see maybe the Chargers, or is that far-fetched because that's kind of the same division?
No, why not? Well, yeah, I mean, I would hate to break within the division, but it could happen, and Harbaugh's, he needs, player, he can go out and get players too, so why not?
I'll throw a wild card in there. What about the not the Ravens, because they have Henry. What about the Titans?
Yeah, Tennessee doesn't. I mean, yeah, there's another team that needs a running back. Yeah, I could see Walker going there, but I'm just curious.
Could you see the Colts trading Jonathan Taylor?
Taylor's interesting because when he's healthy, he's great, but when he's hurt, it's not good. And they already have issues with Anthony Richardson, so I don't know.
And that's another one I say might get traded is Anthony Richardson.
I honestly, as a Gator fan, I think he should have stayed in college one more year. That's just me. I don't think he was ready. And you can see
no, you know what? I agree.
You could see why he should have stayed one more year in college in Gainesville and developed his game a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, but then if you trade him, what team is? I mean, I don't think he's a starting quarterback. So you're going to go to a team that needs a backup. I don't think he's going to be a starter. Did he go to the Raiders as an outside shot? Did you see Tom and company bringing him in as a shot in the dark?
Possibly, maybe. I mean, maybe I could see that. I think all Anthony Richardson needs is a change of scenery, and he needs to be put with a guy that's an offensive-minded head coach.
I agree.
Because if you look at Shane, I think it's Shane Steichen as the head coach. He's offensive-minded, but I feel like he's failing Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Because he's not giving Anthony Richardson a game plan where he can. Anthony Richardson, both of us know Anthony Richardson's a heck of a good scrambler.
Right, exactly.
That's what he was known for at UF, at the University of Florida. And what has he not been able to do with the Colts, even though they have a really good offensive line?
Just run. Yep.
I could see the Raiders working. I could see the Steelers maybe, because they don't really have a quarterback. Yeah, if you're going to tell me Mason Rudolph's going to be your starter, well, that doesn't move the needle at all.
If you think back too, they've had some running style quarterbacks with
Justin Fields,
Cordell Stewart, and Justin Fields. So I could see Anthony, and really Mike Tomlin might be that type of guy that could help Anthony develop a little bit more as a quarterback. He'd be one of those coaches that's a veteran coach that likes to develop players. I mean, do you take a long shot, Bud, and maybe possibly send him to Kansas City to back up Patrick Mahomes?
No. Okay. They don't need any more help.
No, I know. I agree. I'm just saying.
Now, here's one nobody's thinking of. Do you send him to Tennessee? I know Mike Vrabel's kind of a defensive-minded head coach, but I've looked at their staff, the staff he put together. He's got some good offensive-minded guys on his staff. Do you send him to Tennessee if, with the outside chance, they don't take a guy like Cam Ward?
Well, remember, Mike Vrabel's in New England now.
Oh, my bad. Brian Callahan.
Gonna say, yeah. I mean, Tennessee needs a lot, and that wouldn't be a shocker to me if they were able.
If they don't take Cam Ward and they go like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, or they trade the pick.
And again, to trade the number 1 overall pick, they're going to want a haul. I mean, they're going to want.
There's teams talking to them. The Giants and the Browns are jockeying to see who can get a better package together to move up in front and block the other one from taking. I think that we both know the Giants want a Shadur Sanders.
Yeah.
And I think somehow the Browns want Shadur too.
Do you see them, Bud? Do you see that possibly happening where they trade with the Giants at 2, they move up, and then they take Shadur number 1? Or do you think a shot in the dark in Tennessee goes, oh, so you want Shadur number 1? We'll take him. I mean, I'm just saying, it's happened like that before where teams will go, hey, you want that guy? Well, we're number 1. We'll take him. But then again, the Titans are not in the same division as the Giants and Browns. I mean, Tennessee's in the AFC with Cleveland, but that's not a division opponent. And the Giants are in the NFC. They're in a complete different conference. Ooh, that's interesting. But I mean, that would make.
People are saying the Giants could do it to screw over the Browns.
They could. I mean,
but then there's Browns fans out there saying that they don't want Shadur. They want Abdul Carter or Will Johnson or one of the offensive linemen that we talked about in the mock draft, like a Kelvin Banks. And
well, I mean,
I don't buy for a second that Shadur is going to fall outside the top 5.
I don't think so either. I mean, obviously,
I think that's just all smoke and mirrors, which is normally what you get right before the draft. Because these teams want to try to scare other teams away from taking somebody that they want.
Correct. It would make his day to be the number 1 overall pick because he has said since he declared for the draft that he should go number 1 overall. So it'd make his day, and you know how excited his dad would be. I don't know. Speaking of his dad, how did their spring game go? I will talk about that later, but I'm curious to see how their spring game went in Colorado without Travis Hunter, without Shadur. I'm curious to see how they're going to do this year in Colorado.
I am too. And ladies and gentlemen, you can hear us talk about that. July 29th on the first episode of the Helmet to Helmet College Football podcast. But back to the NFL, looking at it, and I know we're in the offseason still, but what coaches could you see being on the hot seat going into the season?
Obviously the New York Giants head coach.
Dable. Stefanski?
Yeah. Possibly. Who's the head coach in Arizona?
Gannon. I think that's a very low chance of happening because I think Arizona is going to be good this year. Well, they barely missed the playoffs. They were like the Lions were a couple of years ago.
Okay.
The Lions missed the playoffs, and then the next year they made the playoff. I think Arizona is going to be in the same boat. They missed the playoffs last year. They'll make the playoffs this year and get knocked out in like the wild card round. Even though people are talking about, they want Kyler Murray gone. Kyler Murray's came out and said that he is willing to play less Call of Duty and focus more on football.
I don't.
You know, do you believe that? Because I don't.
No, I mean, he's always been kind of questionable since he was picked. Honestly, because a lot of people thought he should have played baseball. There were a lot of people that thought he should have became a baseball player. But he hasn't had a coach that's kind of made him do that. So no, I don't see him giving up his habit of playing video games instead of.
I don't either. And then there's people that are saying, "Oh, Kyler's going to get traded." Who wants that contract?
Well, who wants that contract and who wants that drama? Because remember, he comes with baggage. He's not studying film. Everybody in the NFL knows that. So what GM and head coach is going to take that on unless you are Tennessee? You don't take
the Giants.
The Giants, whoever needs a quarterback may take that shot. But then again, if you're Kyler Murray, and I don't know if he has a no trade clause in his contract or whatever,
I think he does.
They want to go to the Giants and the Browns or the Titans that are all in a rebuild.
Well, see, but the thing with the Browns is, and I think they can get out of Watson's contract, which that's the worst contract in the NFL.
Well,
he should have never got all that money for what he did. We will not elaborate on it because it's not appropriate for YouTube. But if you want to, just look up the article. That's all we can say on that because it is not. It's a very, very touchy subject that Deshaun Watson got involved in.
Cleveland screwed the rest of the NFL with that guarantee. This is in the MLB. This is not Major League Baseball where you have a salary cap, guys. Come on now. They don't have one in MLB. But they screwed that over when they guaranteed him money, and now every quarterback
they guaranteed him $250 million.
And he's
do I have to say that again for the people in the back? $250 million guaranteed. That is ridiculous for a guy that had one good season in Houston. And then he whined and complained and wanted his way out because he didn't have a say in who was the new head coach.
Mm-hmm. And they have a great head coach in Houston. So that was stupid.
Yes, they do. And CJ Stroud is way better than Deshaun Watson.
CJ Stroud, and I'll be honest with you, I underappreciated him when he got drafted number 2 behind Caleb Williams. I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna, and he's worked out a lot better. I'm just gonna say that out loud. He's gonna have a long.
See, but the problem with the Bears is, and they're another team that has a lot of problems.
Yep, they sure do. They have stadium issues now too. I think they are trying to get a new.
There's two teams in the NFL that have stadium issues. They're one. That's not the only issue. When they drafted Caleb Williams, I think they darn well knew that they were gonna fire Eberflus at some point and bring in a new head coach. I do like the hire they made of Ben Johnson.
I do too.
I thought that was a sneaky good hire because look what he did to Jared Goff.
In the division too, so you're gonna see the Detroit Lions.
And people are already saying that, oh, he's gonna do the same thing in Chicago that he did in Detroit. Look who the Bears' number 1 running back is, DeAndre Swift. What happened in Detroit? DeAndre Swift was the number 1, and David Montgomery was in Chicago.
And now they've
they switched, but people are out here saying that don't sleep on the Bears taking a running back in the draft.
In the mock, but I think you mentioned that was one of their possible needs. So yeah, don't be. I read something. Oh no, okay, they trade up to get Abdul Carter. So So here's what I read about the Bears. I'll give you what I read. It says Titans and Browns seem to be locked in on Cam Ward and Travis Hunter, respectively, at picks 1 and 2. The Bears are looking to trade up to number 3 with the Giants and draft Carter, but trading down isn't out of the question to also get ready for Thibodeau or Burns on the edge. So again, it's.
I mean, could you see them taking an edge rusher at 10 to pair with Thibodeau and Burns?
It's a possibility. I mean,
you know what? Let's theorize something and let's see if it happens tomorrow night. Could you imagine a tandem of Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and a edge like Shamar Stewart?
That could, because I have a funny feeling if the Bears stay put, they don't trade up. I don't think Carter will be there at 10. I really don't. I think he'll be gone. So yeah, I could see them going, and those three on that defensive line, scary. It's a scary situation.
Or a guy like Nick Scorton or James Pierce, who we didn't have going in the first round. Or maybe a guy that's outside the first round. Maybe a Jack Sawyer or a JT Tuimoloau. Could you imagine one of those guys on a defensive line with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely help one of the needs for Chicago. And then, of course, if you go that route with defense, then the next you got to go offense in round 2 at 20, I would think. Or
but out of those 3 guys I talked about, what is the more realistic option? Do you think Jack Sawyer going at 10 would be a reach? After the playoff take into account the playoff he had. Do you think?
I think, but the first guy that you named would fit well. Carter,
James Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce.
If Shamar Stewart's not there, but then you look at the other edges, Mason Graham, if somehow he falls to 10, Kenneth Grant.
And Graham would be well with Thibodeau and Burns too. I mean, anybody that they get as a rookie that's a top defensive lineman, yeah, it's going to be that's hard for the NFC North, the Packers, the Lions,
and the Giants are NFC East.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the Bears. My fault, bud. I'm sorry.
No, I am talking about the Bears. No, we're talking about the Giants. We're talking about the Giants. The NFC East.
The East, okay.
Yeah, they could do that to screw over Dallas.
Yeah, I was going to say.
One of Dallas's needs is edge.
Yeah.
Or do you think they go, is there the outside off chance they don't go edge or corner and they go wide receiver and put a guy like Emeka Ibuka, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, Jaden Higgins with Malik Neighbors?
Yeah. I could see the Giants.
But then again, like I said in the mock, that might be way too early for a guy like Jaden Higgins. Even though I like him a lot, I don't know about you. He's a good catch. He's a really good route runner, polished, played in the Big 12. So, I mean, the Big 12, obviously we know. The defense is somewhat optional every week there. I could also see the Giants going offensive line because I've heard that Andrew Thomas has not worked out for them.
No, and offensive line's always a necessity.
They do like Evan Neal a lot, though, and that's the one thing the Giants fans have said is one of the best picks they made was Evan Neal.
Yeah,
Could you see them trading Andrew Thomas for potentially maybe an end of the first round draft pick or maybe second or third round
I could see that, but I mean, I think
to an offensive lineman, to a team that's in need of an offensive lineman that doesn't think they'll get one in the first round?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think one of the top 10 will probably near the end or near the middle of the draft will trade up or trade their second round pick to move up to get another guy. I could see the Giants, Browns,
Now,
Titans.
here's give me 3 teams you could see later down the board in the draft, like 19 through 28, that you could see moving up.
Moving up.
Could you see the Buccaneers moving up? If they think that the guy they want won't be there at 19.
Jason Light's never been one of those guys that's moved up very often. I can't say it's not going to happen because I'm not in his shoes and I'm not going to. I would love, honestly, Bud, I don't care what team it was. I would love to be in the war room on a draft night for any team, to sit there and listen to them on the phone or make their trades or whatever they need to do. It would be kind of cool to sit in a war room.
What?
But could I see the Bucs trading up if their guy, if obviously, and I've heard Jason Light numerous times say that they go for the best available, right? That's the thing with every team. Whoever the best available is, if that's a need, they're going to go get that guy. So if they need somebody and would it be a far-fetched situation to see the Bucs move up to get Abdul Carter? Would that be too far-fetched for them to move up somewhere in the top? And I don't know.
I could see the movement up to maybe 15 or 16, but in the top 5, they'd have to give away a lot.
Yeah, you would have to see, you'd have to see picks, players.
Maybe like Chris Godwin and a couple draft picks.
But you see that you just re-signed Godwin. I can't see them trading him away. You just brought him back, and he's coming off of another one of those injury years too. I could see Rachaad White being in a trade package if they were going to go up and move up. I could see him possibly being moved up and picks, but Jason Light's not that type of GM though, so I can't see them. Like I said, but I don't think you see them moving up from 19 to the top 5. That's a little far-fetched. Moving up a couple.
Now, would it be far-fetched to say the Steelers moving up into the top 10?
No, I can't see that either because they need a quarterback. They were looking at running back. If they feel that one of their, let's say I'm going to say they wanted Milroe, and they think he might go in the top 10, and they want to move up, why not? I could see that. I could see the Steelers moving up. So,
could you see the Chargers moving up, not into the top 10, but like the top 15? If they feel like whoever they want, maybe a Will Johnson or one of those other wide receivers, they could see them going earlier than they're supposed to. Could you see the Chargers moving up?
Yeah, I would say if they feel that Will Johnson might be there for them later on, yes, because of Harbaugh and him, being the ex-coach in Michigan, I could see that happening. Him moving up and trying to get one of his former kids. Yep.
And now we're gonna wrap up with we're gonna throw a dart at the dartboard, see if it sticks in terms of picking a couple guys that we think could go earlier than they're supposed to in the draft, whether it be first round, whether they're like a 4th or 5th round grade. I mean, think they could go earlier in the draft, like Will Howard, for example. What round are you willing to throw at the dartboard for Will Howard to go in? Because I think he's a 5th or 6th round pick projected right now. Could you see throwing a dart at the dartboard to see if it sticks? Him going in like the 3rd or 4th round.
I was gonna say, but I would say, if anything, I would say at the highest, I would say round 3. at the highest. Yeah.
Same thing with me. What about a guy like Jaden Higgins? He's projected early third round, late second. Would you throw a dart at the dartboard for him going at the end of the first round?
That could happen if
To
he's
maybe Kansas City.
Andy Reid likes to take gambles on players. Yeah, I could see that.
Cough, cough, Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's not out of the realm. See, that's what makes the draft so cool. Nothing's ever out of the realm of it happening.
I would say the only thing nobody wants to see is Tyler Warren going to the Chiefs.
No. They, like you said earlier, the Chiefs and the Eagles don't need help. That's why they were in the Super Bowl a year ago. They don't need it. And if you let a good player fall to them, you're just feeding the fire.
I remember who it was now. They took Cooper DeJean last year in the draft. And he helped them win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren can go to anybody except for the Chiefs.
Yep.
I wouldn't be mad if he went to the Eagles. Because, I mean, we've seen Dallas Goedert has injury problems.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say, would Tyler Warren be a good fit for the Buccaneers?
Who? Yeah,
even though they have Cade Otton.
Cade Otton, there's another guy who is there sometimes and then he's not. You know, he's a good pass catching tight end, but he's not not the greatest blocking tight.
He's not a guy. Look at what Tyler Warren did at Penn State. He lined up a wide receiver, he lined up a running back, he lined up a quarterback.
I could see that would be a really, really out pick, round one for Jason and Jason Light and all them is to take a tight end. It's a possibility. If
he's there somehow at 19, I don't think there's a chance though.
Their only problem is, do they make that first pick a tight end again? That the last time they did that, it didn't work out too well.
Oh yeah, I know who. I know who you're talking about. The flop that was OJ Howard.
Howard. Yeah, and again, I'm nothing against that, nothing against Tyler, but Jason Light, I don't think needs to take a tight end or a kicker in round one. He hasn't done very well with either of those.
Well, he wasn't there when Aguayo was taken in the first round, was he?
Yeah, he was. He's the one who took him in round two. He's one that took him in round two. Aguayo, yeah, he put his head down. I knew he was. Yeah, he was the GM. He was the one who took Aguayo out of FSU. Yep. I still
remember that pick. I'm like,
they took Matt Gay too.
Yes, it haunts me to this day. When they came up on the board, when it was their pick, I'm like, please don't take a kicker. Please don't take a kicker.
Yep. And they
Anybody but a kicker. And what did they do? And the other pick that doesn't really make any sense to me is Kyle Trask. Why did you take Kyle Trask?
And he's still, and actually, you know what's funny about Kyle Trask? He is the first quarterback the Bucs have ever drafted to get a second contract. Think about that.
Yeah. Jameis never got one. Josh Freeman never got one.
So all the quarterbacks that the Bucs have drafted, he is the first ever to get a second contract. So that's weird.
That pick it didn't make sense to me when I took him. I'm like, you need a quarterback because Brady's not going to be there a long time. And this is before both of us knew they were going to get Baker.
Well, and the thing with Trask is you had an opportunity to develop him behind Tom. Tom was there. You had an opportunity to develop him and make him where you didn't have to go get Baker, but he never, in the preseason, he's great, but during the regular season, he can't play. And then they had to go get Baker. And now Baker's worked out. Baker took a gamble, 1-year contract, and now he's getting paid. Well, he's getting paid minimal, like, popcorn compared to
Yeah.
the most.
Well, and then I read an article about something that people were saying the Bucs were going to do last year in the draft. And it was taking Baker's replacement and Drake May. And I read the article. I'm just like, yeah, that's a year old now. And even if they did, and he was still on the board when the Bucs picked, I don't think they would have taken Drake May.
Well, he went to New England anyway, but no, I don't think that would have worked out either. No, first of all, Baker, I think, is the right fit, and I think, he's fit for the offense. Mike Evans loves him. Chris Godwin loves him. That offensive line loves him. I mean, I think everybody's coming back this year on the offensive line. They're not replacing anybody. That's great. And I think Baker kind of gave them, forget what Baker rewarded them after the offseason when they lost in the playoffs. But, to draft, no. Let Baker play a couple more years under his contract. And if he starts to slide, then maybe draft his replacement. But then, that could be. But then again, it's this year I wouldn't take a quarterback because it's not a quarterback-driven draft. Next year, on the other hand, I think the top prize, depending on how he does, would be Arch Manning. Pending.
Well, there's Arch. There's maybe Julian Sand from Ohio State. Cade Klubnik, Clemson.
Who's the DJ Lagway in Florida if he has another good season for the Gators?
Is he eligible? Because I thought he was only a freshman.
Oh, maybe he won't be. Maybe you're right, but maybe he will not be eligible for the draft next year.
Nico, maybe if he has a good year at UCLA.
Yeah, that was well. Bye-bye, Tennessee. You just signed your death warrant because there goes your quarterback and there goes your offense out the window. I couldn't be clapping my hands more. Division opponent.
And again, we will talk about that.
Yep.
July 29th. So be sure to tune in to all these podcasts because you never know what you'll know what you'll hear from either of us. But and I forgot to say this at the beginning. We are part of the NGSC Sports Network. You know the website, ngsc.com. You can also find this podcast after it's done on Spotify. I will be putting it up. You just search Between the Hashes podcast on Spotify. We recommend listening to the audio version and leaving a thumbs up, a like, leaving your comments down below. And as Bradley said earlier, I will be joining the Walker Report tomorrow night for the NFL Draft. So he does live stream the Walker Report over on his YouTube channel, The Walker Report. Make sure to give that a subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of his future Walker Report live streams. And same with me. Make sure you turn on, if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to, make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss any future podcasts of this, because Bradley will be a part, once the season starts, of this podcast as well as college football. And we still have a lot of MLB season left, and we will have another episode of the Showstoppers podcast next Tuesday.
Be back. Yep.
And ladies and gentlemen, please let us know in the comments if you like us doing the podcast on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. you would rather have the podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays. And as most of you know, we've said this numerous times, 2026, we will be taking our Helmet to Helmet podcast live to Ann Arbor, Michigan for Oklahoma, Michigan. Help us find a spot on the Michigan campus to stream live from Ann Arbor. And if you know anybody that works in the athletic department there because you go to school there, let them know to reach out to me or Bradley. But I believe that's going to wrap up tonight's episode of the Between the Hashes podcast. We will see everybody on tomorrow night over on Bradley's channel for the NFL Draft watch party.
Mm-hmm.
And we are peacing out. Deuces!